What's up, guys? I wanted to talk a little bit about NASCAR Heat 3. Since there isn't really a lot of news and it's a slow drip of information that we've seen so far, and I think that's just going to continue. Maybe they'll probably drop one batch of information every week, depending on what race they're gonna be at. This week was Watkins Glen, and I do remember last year they were kind of doing that every week. Whatever track they were at for that weekend, they would drop off like gameplay footage of that track. So maybe they're gonna do that again. They did it this week, and we're only a month away from the release of the game. I'm not ready to do a prediction video. Those of you who watch my channel know that I've been doing prediction videos for a while now. Before the release of NASCAR games, I take whatever information we get up to a certain point, and then when I get a good idea of what I think the game's gonna be, I talk about it and I make a prediction just for kicks, just to see how much of it I was right about, how much of it I was wrong about. I do think that I have a decent track record. Not perfect, but I think I've had a pretty good run at it. So I look forward to doing that again. The game's only a month away, and so it shouldn't be much longer. But unfortunately, because we don't have a lot of information, I may have to wait almost to the last minute. So it is what it is. But I do like what I see so far from 704. You gotta, the way I look at things right now, I'm being realistic about it. So, there's a point where you have to understand it is what it is, right? This company, they doing things a certain way, whether I agree with it or not. I don't like the way they do the marketing, but this is what it is. What it is. I can't just keep harping on that. I got to take it for what it is and just try to get as much out of it as I can. Now, I do like the direction they're going, and I know a lot of you guys are not on that same page. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. You feel like you've been burned, or maybe they're not progressing as quickly as you want them to. I wish they would progress a little quicker, but it is what it is. The point is, when you do a yearly title, even the big companies like EA and all these other companies, Take-Two, there's only so much they can add year to year. It's not a lot of time to develop games. And these yearly sports titles, they're really just glorified DLC. So that's what happens when you do yearly titles. And is it the way I would have done it if I was running the company? No. I would have held off. I would take 2-3 years even, if that's what it takes, to push out a game, and then not push out another game for a couple of years. And in the interim, every year I would release real DLC that keeps the game fresh, and up to date when it comes to rosters, paint schemes, as well as making improvements to things like the physics, the handling, the AI, things of that nature. But that's not what they're doing, and that's not what, almost every sports game is like this. That's what they do. I don't think they see it as profitable, and they're probably right. They're just not going to make the same profit if they did it the way I'm talking about. It's the business model that's sort of ingrained in the world in the gaming industry. We're not going to see a change in that anytime soon. So they're going to milk it for all it's worth, which is selling glorified DLC. It doesn't always mean it's going to be a terrible thing, but you have to understand there's a limit to what they can do from year to year. Now, when you look at NASCAR Heat 3, you got to remember it's not a year of development. So it's not even a full 12 months. We don't know when they started the actual development of NASCAR Heat 3. At some point, after they released NASCAR Heat 2, they started finalizing whatever DLC they had coming for that. Remember, they came out with a 2018 DLC with the updated Charlotte Roval, with the updated paint schemes and cars and stuff like that. So that took a big chunk of the time after the release of NASCAR Heat 2. So when did they actually start NASCAR Heat 3? And even if they started it right away after the release of NASCAR Heat 2, they certainly didn't have the entire team working on it. They might have had a handful of people start it while the rest of the team was still working on the DLC and the other stuff. So keep in mind, this game, I'm throwing a number out there, and it's just, speculation, might have at best 8 months of work by the time this game is released. So how much can you actually do in 8 months? Not a lot. So when you look at it for what it is, not for what you wish it was, I am excited about what they've been able to do. So, I've always had this back and forth with the way people come out and they're always, they're a small developer, they don't have resources. That's not a good excuse for the basics. The things like the fact that there's no stats, haven't been stats in these games going all the way back to 2011. So that's a terrible excuse for that. But when it comes to other aspects like expecting a big leap in terms of graphics and all this other stuff, that's where that argument makes total sense. And I agree. You know what? They're not EA. And when you look at EA or any of these other bigger companies, even they can't do a lot from year to year. Which is where the term cut and paste comes from. Because basically these yearly games are cut and paste for the most part. So when you see that for what it is, and you look at 704, I have to commend them. I actually think that they've gotten a lot done. It just with the little bit of information we have so far, I have to say I can't be overly critical. I mean, I'm really excited about what they've been able to achieve. Well, I don't know if achieve is the best word because until we actually play the game, we won't really know what they've achieved. But just taking what features have been announced, looking at the trailer, looking at the latest gameplay video, they've done a lot. So I get it for those of you who are not on board. And you're like, you know what? I'm not as excited as you. I'm not getting this game. Screw these guys. I get it. Okay? And I'm not here to convert you or try to get you to see things different. I'm just giving you my opinion. And if we disagree, that's fine. Hopefully when the game does finally get released, there's enough there that's confirmed that you can turn around and say, you know what, this is pretty good, for what it is. And maybe it is enough for you to jump in or jump on board. It might not be. And maybe I'll turn around and after I play the game for a couple of weeks and I do a review, maybe I'll say, you know what, this thing just isn't cutting it. And believe me, you guys know I've never been afraid to criticize, and I won't be afraid to criticize if it turns out that it's not what it should be. But at this point, I like the direction. I like what I see. The sound, especially going by this last gameplay video, is a lot better. Now, is it where it needs to be? Is it exactly, realistic? No, it's not. There's still room to go. And I do expect 704 to continue to develop the sound. Okay? By no means do I think, okay, they're done with that. Move on to something else. That's going to be a work in progress. But compared to, I mean, do yourself a favor. Watch the latest gameplay video and then watch a clip of, somebody actually did a comparison video. And you can, it's night and day. The difference is really big when it comes to the sound. It is a lot better. So while it's not where it should be, I am happy in the direction they're going. This is going to be a much more enjoyable game to listen to. It just sounds a lot better. So I'm thrilled about that. You know, I couldn't say that last year. I thought they were going to kind of improve it, and it just turned out they didn't. But this time around, it looks like they really were able to focus on that, and it shows. It comes through. So I've always thought that the sound is one of the most overlooked aspects of all these NASCAR games. None of them ever sounded any good. We finally have one that is well on its way. Okay? So I gotta commend these guys. They're working on stuff that we've been complaining about. You're not gonna get everything you want. I'm not gonna get everything I want. And believe me, there are certain things that if they're not addressed, I'm gonna go apeshit. Believe me. But in the meantime, I see the attention to detail. Okay? It's not perfect, but it shows. So the small amount of time they've had to work on this game, I'm actually impressed. And I was last year as well. When they came out and they just dropped a bomb on us and said, hey, trucks and Xfinity are in. We added all these extra tracks. It was a much better game from the first game. Yeah, it was pretty easy to go from the first game because that was really bad. But the point is, they got a lot done for the short amount of time they had to work on the game. Now you have, and like I said, I'm just throwing that number out there. Let's say more or less 8 months, which sounds to me plausible. That's a lot. When you look at the trailer, when you look at this latest gameplay video, I gotta say, how can you not be somewhat impressed? I'm not saying it's time to pop the champagne, but man, these guys are trying. And I've seen people bring up Eutechnics and like, oh yeah, that game looks so much better and the physics were great. And you know, people have this revisionist history and this, did you forget how horrible Eutechnics was? I didn't. And then people are like, oh, NASCAR 15 is better than I'm sorry, man. I cannot be on board with that. That's a lot of bullshit. Now, right now, the king is still, in my opinion, NASCAR Thunder 2004. And I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of a 15-year-old game is still the king. It's still the top dog. And can 704 finally take the crown from that game? I'm not sure they're going to do it this time. But they're on their way. I see a lot of promise here. And I think that if they continue at the pace they're going, I don't see why next year's game can't finally take that mantle. But we don't know what this game is yet. But I'm getting a feel for it. And I'm excited. So I can't wait to see more gameplay footage. I'm digging the sound. And I hope they continue to develop it and continue to tweak it and work on it. It's not where it needs to be, but it is a big improvement over last year. It just is. And the more I look at the visuals, I am spotting some detail. The sky and the clouds and all that stuff, yeah, I know it's not the most important thing, but it is noticeable. If you look at the sky from NASCAR Heat 2 and you see all the footage that we've seen, whether it's screenshots, gameplay footage, or the trailer, the clouds are night and day. It's not even close. So they have been able to do a lot of things that the more you look at it, it's in there. It's in details. It's not going to be something that is overwhelming in your face, but it's there. So they're actually moving along quite nicely. And some things are not, they're kind of dragging their feet. But in other things, it's like they're still getting a lot done. I already told you guys, I wish they hadn't added the Dirt Series so they could focus on everything else. And if they did, I think it would be even that much better. But they didn't do that. So I can't keep harping on that. It is what it is. They decided to add a Dirt Series, so now I'm accepting it for what it is. And it is exciting, and I look forward to it. So it's in there. They put in the work, and we have to continue to guide them and tell them what we want, what we don't want, and they are listening. It's not perfect. They're not going to give us everything we want, but there is a communication there. I don't like the way everything is through Twitter and Facebook, but you know what? It's better than what we ever got before. EA never gave a damn about anybody. Eutechnics, they used to pretend that they were paying attention to the community. They never did. They just gave you the same rehashed garbage. And people, for those of you who actually look back at Eutechnics, did you forget how atrocious the AI was? The AI in 704's games are night and day better than anything Eutechnics ever put out. That AI was atrocious. Dive bombing, no sense of awareness, just smashing you out of the way, brake checking. It was horrendous. So you guys really need to go back and play those games if you think that Eutechnics was better in any way. So that's my opinion. I see a lot here to be excited about. And I hope that within maybe 2 weeks I could finally do a prediction video. And let's see what happens. But I look forward to this game. I look forward to the career mode and building your own team. All right. Yes, it's not going to be as in depth as we want. Hoping that down the line we can hire drivers, right? So that you can have a 2-car team, let's say, and you're driving for yourself, and you also have another car where you contract somebody, and have it where you can work on your organization and your team to build better cars. So not just for yourself as a driver, but for the other driver you have who's under your contract to you, and see them progress and do better and run better. That's going to add even more depth. But we have to continue to tell 704 what we want. And the last thing I want to say is, I've had countless arguments with people. I've done videos on it where people that come out and say, you guys are wasting your time. These people don't care. I think we've shown. I think we've seen with what we're so far seeing with NASCAR Heat 3 and even with last year's game that they do listen. And they have been listening. So criticism, as long as it's constructive, works. And I don't think anybody can come out now and say that we're wasting our time, because we're not. The proof is in the pudding. So this game is not where it needs to be, but it's on its way. And we have to keep pushing. Okay? And I do think the potential is there. And finally, I think, hopefully next year, we can finally have a game that takes that crown away from NASCAR Thunder 2004. As much as I love that game, I'm just tired of it still holds that top dog mantle. Its place on the mantle, I should say. I'm just tired of it. It's 2018. You know, so I'm gonna keep pushing for these guys to go in the right direction, and I hope that all these other YouTubers who are NASCAR fans, they also do the same thing, because as a community, we have been able to get this game to where it is today. So while it's not going to satisfy everyone, I think that if you're being fair and honest, it's moving along, and it is headed in the right direction. And uh, we should tell 704 that we appreciate it, but at the same time, it's because of our criticism that it's happening. So I hope we get some more news this week, maybe before the next race. Maybe they are doing it like they did kind of like last year before uh, every race weekend. They would release gameplay footage of whatever track NASCAR was at for that weekend. They already said they're not doing developer diaries. So I, let's see. Let's see what happens. The game's only a month away, so uh, let's see what happens. I look forward to your comments, and let me know what you think.